Good evening and welcome. The League of Women Voters of the Hamptons, Shelter Island, and the North Fork is pleased to be sponsoring this virtual debate for the candidates running for two different offices in the village of Southampton. First part of the debate will feature the trustees. We have three that are running for two positions on the board, and the second part of the debate will be between the two candidates for mayor. I'm Kathy Kenny. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters from Shelter Island and will serve as moderator. Joining me off camera this evening is Arlene Herkemeyer, who's our publicity chairperson, Helen Goldstein, who's my backup if I lose my link, Mary Pellicane, who is the League of Women Voters debate coordinator in Southampton. And on camera, you'll see is Eileen Mercer. She's very important because she's the timekeeper. She'll hold up a sign to indicate how much time you have left. Just a quick word about who we are. The League of Women Voters is a political but nonpartisan national organization. While we never endorse parties or political candidates, we are involved in many issues affecting our community. Foremost among our goals is to educate voters, stimulate voter interest, and encourage voter participation. We are respected for sponsoring fair and impartial candidate debates, such as this one, and for the educational materials we distribute on voting issues. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask the candidates to remain seated during the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the ground rules for the debate are as follows. Since we don't have a live audience before us, all the questions have been submitted by the community and vetted by League of Women Voters as to their appropriateness for the debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. In addition, each candidate will have the opportunity for one-minute rebuttal to any of his opponent's responses. If you wish to do that, just raise your hand. Hopefully I'll see it. To begin, the candidates will proceed in alphabetical order. We'll rotate that after once the questions start, and we'll start now with the opening statements. And since your name begins with B, Trustee Brown, you'll go first.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. My name is Robin Brown, and I'm proud to be running for re-election as Southampton Village Trustee. Serving this community has been one of my greatest honors. My approach is simple: listen closely, act reasonably, and lead with heart. As safety liaison, I initiated our drone patrol and jet ski rescue initiative, added electric bikes for police and ambulance for better crowd patrol, and I collaborated with the police department to enhance commercial vehicle enforcement by providing scales for our officers, giving them an additional tool to address unsafe trucks on our roads. I helped negotiate mutually beneficial contract with Southampton Ambulance and Southampton Village Dispatchers that the best response time we have is with them in the Hamptons. And I've served as liaison to Southampton Art Center, Southampton History Museum, assisting in securing over $300,000 in grants. As trustee, I have focused on our beaches, public safety, and the environment as core priorities. As liaison to Cooper's Beach, I'm thrilled we have achieved our goal for regaining our #1 national ranking, and I'm sure we all are. We have also expanded Wi-Fi access to the beach and contributed to generating nearly $2 million in revenue surplus. I've introduced policies to reduce cut-through traffic in the village, improve traffic enforcement, and introduce new technologies to clean up our local waterways. I spent much of my life in humanitarian work, including projects in Liberia, where clean water access is a daily struggle. That experience gives me profound appreciation for how vital environmental stewardship is right here in our own backyards. I'm running for re-election because there's more work to do. I will continue to approach every decision with dedication and a strong sense of responsibility to our community. I want to continue building a village government that reflects our values and protects the place we all love. Village government is finally working the way it should, steady, effective, and focused on progress. I would like to be the trustee that helps continue moving the village forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coburn?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and Kathy for hosting this debate and for all the work you do leading nonpartisan advocacy and voter awareness and engagement. When I was 6, my mother brought me to a League of Women Voters event, first political experience of my life. She couldn't find a babysitter. And she and both of my grandmothers were members of their local leagues. I know she'd be glad to know that you're still doing all this work and proud that her son has graduated from the audience to the dais. So I've loved Southampton since I came here 35 years ago and knew I had found my new home. Growing up in a small New England town made me love history, historic places, and old-fashioned values like kindness, fairness, and community service. Despite the hard knocks of 25 years on Wall Street, I still believe in those values. For the past 15 years, I've been fortunate to make my love of historic places my work, having restored and preserved the Watch Case Factory in Barron's Cove in Sag Harbor, the Pridman Hotel on Shelter Island, and my own 18th century home here in the village. I've had the honor of serving on the board of the Architectural Review and Historic Preservation under 2 mayors. I've also been appointed by multiple mayors, including our current mayor, Bill Manger, to serve on village environmental committees and co-wrote the village's plans for long-term restoration of our open waters. I'm running for 3 reasons. First, my experience in historic preservation, environmental protection, and site development has given me skills to address critical issues facing the village like septic treatment, traffic improvement, renewable energy, and infrastructure. Second, communication has been a key to my business success, and I want to use those skills to help keep residents informed about the village. And third, having heard residents' concerns that the consistent 4-1 split seems to stifle both imagination and deliberation, I'm running as an independent to change that. I want to improve transparency and accountability, and I want to help preserve the historic character and charm of our village.
Thank you. Trustee Stevenson?
Thank you. Tonight, you will hear our opponents talk about what they see as wrong with our village and the leadership Mayor Menger, Trustee Brown, and I have provided. They will say Southampton is in crisis, is heading in the wrong direction. It gives me pause to wonder if we even live in the same village, because when I look around, I see so many good things happening in every key area of village life. Reducing cut-through traffic on our side streets, supporting our police and our amazing volunteer first responders, controlling overdevelopment, protecting Agawam and Old Town Pond. We have made and will continue to make significant accomplishments. Our green initiative and solar arrays will enable your village government to produce more clean energy than we consume and reduce our carbon footprint by 1,000 metric tons a year. We've helped fund the restoration of our historical museum. We put a new roof on the Southampton Arts Center. And yet, thanks to strong financial management, we have achieved all this without raising taxes. You know, when I was first elected trustee, I thought I would just do the right thing and everybody would agree with me. Boy, was I naive. But I'm not hard to find. Come see me at my store, send me an email, give me a call. I will listen, keep an open mind, and try to understand your viewpoint. I'll honestly tell you my reasoning, not just what I think you want to hear. I've learned how important it is to listen, to try to understand other points of views, to be open to changing my mind, but at the same time, having the courage to make the decision that I believe in the long run provides the greatest good to the greatest number of people. I've learned that while it's gratifying to have the approval of those who agree, it's even more rewarding to earn the respect of those whose opinions differ from having listened to and considered their views. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate. I look forward to sharing with you my thoughts on the important issues facing the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the first question, Mr. Coburn will go first, but I have to alter the question a little because he wasn't on the board at the time this event took place. So the village has hired a police officer who was cited in an off-duty incident 4 years ago that involved alcohol during a motor vehicle accident. As a result, he subsequently resigned from his previous assignment as a police officer where he served in another town. So this for Mr. Coburn is, do you approve of this hire? Why not?
Well, as you stated, I wasn't on the board at the time. I want to say a few things first, and then I'll get it to the heart of your question. I think, like my fellow candidates here, support our police. I think we have a very fine police force. Had the privilege to spend some time with the chief recently, and I've known her for many years, actually, on her beat and on her patrols. So I'm very proud as a village resident, of the police force that we have. I think from what I know from the public record, don't have anything other than the public record, it's a little bit unfortunate that this issue wasn't discussed. I know from discussions with various people that there's a belief that that incident was in the past of the officer and that there's been a change and that it was therefore not just an acceptable, but a good hire. I take that at face value. But it would have been, I think, a better practice for some of this to have been disclosed. I know personnel issues are delicate, but it shouldn't have been a surprise to at least one of the trustees and should not have come out in the press without some better explanation from the board.
Thank you. So the question now turns to trustee Stevenson. The question as it's going to be posed to you is, what was your thinking in selecting this officer? Was there no other qualified candidate from the civil service list?
Well, thank you. As Mr. Coburn said, we have a very, very good police chief in Suzanne Hertow, and she recommended to the board that we hire this individual. He was actually, I think, in the top 3 of the civil service list, which is where you have to be, and those are the only 3 candidates that you can hire from. The chief explained that she had thoroughly investigated the accident, that he was not given a ticket or even taken into any kind of legal situation, and that it was really an unfortunate incident for a young man who appeared to have turned his life around and wanted to serve the village that he was from. So, as far as discussing it with the public and the press, I mean, these are personnel issues. They are discussed in executive session. In many cases, the person's name is not even released to the public to keep his personal details private. So to say in any, to even insinuate in any way that this was a lack of openness or transparency is patently false. We hired the best person that we could at the recommendation of our police chief, who surely knows more about it than anybody else. So that's the way I feel about it. Thank you.
And the same question, do you want me to repeat it, trustee Brown?
No, thank you. I will probably agree with my colleagues in saying that the first thing is that we have to rely on the experts, and that is our chief of police. She has shown herself to be one exemplary and excellent in reviewing candidates, and the workforce that she has and the work productivity that they have produced has been exemplary. So I believe in second chances, and I believe in the chief as she felt as though that he deserved a second chance, as I do, and I believe we all did, that he was worthy of this opportunity. He scored well on his exams, and we are people of second chances. As far as personnel being revealed, all trustees are given the same information at the same time. All trustees have the ability to speak to the chief of police to inquire anything more. There's always the ability in executive session to call in officers to speak beforehand. So I do believe that we made a good choice. He has shown himself exemplary, and we believe in second chances and respecting our chief of police. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question relates to transparency. Mr. Coburn, you will go first.
I just
How will
went
your-
first, I believe, sorry.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Mr. Stevenson. How will your leadership promote transparency, board harmony, and encourage citizen engagement despite differing opinions and pressure from special interest groups?
Well, if you compare the last 2 years of the Southampton Village Board, there was a marked increase in civility and decorum and open discussion than had been the case in the previous mayor's administration, and I'm extremely proud of that. My opponent, Mr. Colburn, often states that he doesn't think we do a good enough job letting people know what is going on. Now, letting people know what's going on is an admirable goal, and I am all for it, but it's hard to ensure that everyone is fully informed because we really do try. We hold 2 meetings a month. We post the agenda for our meetings online. Every meeting is recorded so residents can view them. We post to Instagram. We publish newsletters. Yet there are usually fewer than 20 people that attend our board meetings. And for the most part, they're the same people at every meeting. I don't believe this is because our residents are apathetic or don't care. And it's certainly not because your village government is not open or transparent. What I believe is that the people of our village elect their officials to make decisions and trust them with their vote in the election for the people that they think are going to make the decision in the best interest of the village. They have a life to live. They are going on, and until something dramatically happens next door to them, it's very hard for any village organization to get everybody actively engaged as hard as we try.
Can I
So,
interrupt you for a second? The part of the question goes to how are you going to create board harmony, encourage citizen engagement? I think you answered the first part regarding transparency, but how would you promote harmony, encourage citizen engagement?
I think, as I stated in my opening statement, that we have board harmony. If you've been to any of our meetings, they're very civil. People are discussing items all the time. So I think we have
Okay,
harmony. I'm not really quite sure how we can promote more of it. Um, I think I've taken my time now answering that bit of the question.
thank you. Trustee Brown, you're next, please.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How will your leadership promote transparency, board harmony, encourage citizen engagement despite differing opinions and pressure from special interest groups?
I will say, as far as having things more transparent, I think we are transparent. We keep within the guidelines of how things need to be posted. We keep within the guidelines and taking the next steps, which is putting things on Instagram. And also I've suggested to the village administrator and at meetings to make sure that we have things listed on our outside kiosks. We do understand that everyone may not be looking at the paper. We do understand everyone may not be looking at online or online. We do understand this. So we are trying to do something innovative this time. And this time we're putting things on our kiosks so that you have access as far as online, at the outside kiosks of Village Hall, and in the newspaper. And as far as hearing our residents, we're out there as much as possible, at least I am, and I'm sure others are, because everyone does not necessarily feel as though they're coming to a boardroom. And we have to present ourselves, and I try to present myself in a welcoming way so that people are comfortable to speak in those fashions and their concerns. And it's important to let people know that we hear things. I think at a board meeting, we're trying to explain to people more is that when we're having a conversation, it's a conversation. It's not that we are changing something or implementing something. It's a time for people to express their concerns, give their suggestions, and we'll continue saying this in a welcoming way. We want to hear from you. These are the avenues we can hear from you. And if you have suggestions, we're willing to hear it.
Okay, Mr. Coburn?
Sure, a few things. I like Trustee Brown's enthusiasm for communication, and the kiosk is not a bad idea, but in a world where people rely more on digital communications and where the vast majority of our residents are not full-time and are here only on the weekends or seasonally, I'm not sure that a kiosk will move the needle much on communication and transparency. Mr. Stevenson has said that there has been communication, but I know for a fact that there was no public presentation of the look and feel of the solar array that went into the Jobs Lane parking lot. There was no public discussion of the specific changes that were going to be made to traffic in front of the movie theater a year and a half ago. While both Mr. Stevenson and Ms. Brown have been on the board, we had a change to Chapter 65 of the Village Code. The notice for the meeting said amendments to Chapter 65 of the Village Code. What actually took place was a wholesale replacement and enlargement of the entire chapter and a tightening of the criteria for reviewing historic structures under the code. That's a lack of transparency. No one could have known before the discussion started what was going to be discussed. So these are the things that I mean when I say I want to increase transparency. In terms of citizen engagement, I think the two go hand in hand. If we can solve the better communication and better expectation setting, more complete disclosure up front, then citizen engagement will take care of itself, I believe. I would also just say I think we ought to allow public comment at both of the monthly board meetings, not just one. And I would like to see that moved to the front of the meeting rather than making people wait, in some cases, 45 minutes or an hour or longer in order to make their public comments.
Thank you. Mr. Colburn, you'll get the next one. This has to do with traffic issues.
I think
Hello.
Trustee Brown has her hand up, excuse me.
Oh, you
Am
have
I allowed
rebuttal?
to say something again? As I respect Mr. Corbon has expressed his opinion, the fact is, if the needle is moved forward a lot or a little, we are taking the effort to show our residents that we are trying other options to better communicate, not just the options that we should do lawfully, which we do, not just so we are being creative. So please do not take that lightly as we respect what you have to do. I happen to know that some residents think quite fondly of it. Thank you.
I said it was a good idea, just in my opinion,
Okay.
not enough.
The next issue relates to traffic. Southampton Town Highway Superintendent Charlie McCardle has called the County Road 39 traffic experiment to expedite the rerouting of trade parade cars and trucks out of the area a success. How are Southampton Village roads, including Hill Street, impacted? Would you support continuation of this experiment? What ideas do you have about easing the traffic flow in the village?
Who's the question for?
Mr. Colburn,
Okay, I'm sorry. So
You want
how
me
would I
to-
do that? Well, first of all, I live on Hill Street and I've had the advantage/disadvantage of watching this traffic problem build from a small issue on Hill Street 10 to 11 years ago to a larger issue 6 or 7 years ago. And then obviously in the last 4 to 5 years, an issue that's pretty much exploded throughout the Western Village on a daily basis and through much of the village from time to time, going back through, in fact, through the center of the village on bad evenings. I've said before, the traffic problem is caused by a demographic shift, which has it creates other challenges for the village. We've lost 22,000 roughly members of the workforce who used to live and work east of the canal due to the shift from full-time to part-time residents. We've also grown the employment on the East End by about 3,000 jobs. This is in the last 25 years or so. And the people who've moved into those houses as part-time residents have more service providers, 3, 4, 5 service providers per week sometimes. So that adds 5,000 to 8,000 cars a day. It's a regional structural problem. Getting to the traffic experiment, I would say, seeing this every day while the experiment was going on, traffic volume didn't come down on Hill Street, but it moved more quickly. And I understand the same was on the highway. I would encourage for village residents that we continue at least some version of this plan because it did make a difference. I think that's enough, actually. That's what I would say.
okay. Trustee Brown,
Thank you. Yes, I believe we all understand that this traffic that we are encountering is not just from the village, but meaning the responsibility that we together, the county, the town, the village, have to come together to resolve this. And we've made a start at this. One thing that I've worked along with my colleagues is to enforce the commercial vehicle safety. And we now have the proper signage. We now have the scales for our officers that can look into these overweight vehicles. And the reason why this is important, one, because of safety, and two, because if these vehicles are going to come through our roads, they're going to be safe. But we're hoping, as we're seeing that they are being warned and summoned, that they will think twice before coming into our village streets and stay on the main service road. We're doing all that we can. We're working together with these experiments, and then we're hearing what the impact is and looking at the data. Thank you.
Mr. Stevenson, Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you. Mr. McCardle's efforts to try a new attempt to improve traffic on County 39 was very much welcomed. We can't just sit out here, wring our hands and say there's too many cars, not enough roads, what are we going to do? The traffic's terrible. So I was extremely happy that he made the effort, and I was even happier to see that after the first day or two of people trying to get used to it, it did increase the flow of traffic on 39, and it did alleviate some of the congestion that on our residential streets and Hill Street in Southampton. I advocated increasing our police department manpower to help deal with traffic issues on Hill Street and the side streets. And as a result of enforcing the no right turns off of Somerset, Bishops, and Corrigan, we have greatly reduced the amount of cut-through traffic. Going forward, we must look at doing the same thing for the other side streets on the south side of Hill, Lee, Captain's Neck, and Halsey Neck. The whole Somerset issue to me was a very good example of how government should work. The folks on Somerset were taking the brunt of the cut-through traffic because they're the most westward, and they wanted the government to close the road. And I felt in doing this, it would put additional burden on the Bishops and Corrigan streets. So I advocated, let's ramp up the enforcement. Let's stop the cut through by enforcing the laws, not by closing the road. And we've done that. And I've heard from the folks on Somerset that the cut through traffic is greatly reduced. And I've heard from the folks on Bishops and Corrigan that their situation is much better. So in the end, we did the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And that's what I set out to do. So that's my thoughts on traffic. Thank you.
Okay, the next question
May I-
concerns,
Sorry. may I
oh, I'm
comment?
sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to partially agree with Mr. Stevenson, just to amplify a little bit. I spoke with both the prior mayor and the current mayor early on in his term about the need to enforce what had been a bargain anyway, which was enforcing no right turns. The village chose not to do that, unfortunately, and then following the unfortunate accident in December, it ramped up, and it's been very successful. It may not be the right long-term solution, but it's really worked well from the time they began stepped up enforcement in mid-January for 6 or 7 weeks, and some of that's continued, and the impact has been great. So I applaud our police department for doing that, and I think it buys us time to see if there are other more permanent options with less manpower involved.
Thank you. The next question is also related to traffic, and it relates to the closing Pond Lane. So Trustee Stevenson, you would go first. Do you support the proposed closure of Pond Lane? Would you be in favor of closing it entirely, converting it to a one-way, or keeping it open as is?
Well, let me first state there is no proposal to close Pond Lane. There was an idea to create a park on the grounds overlooking Pond Lane that Mr. Paulson owned, and he was willing to donate those lands worth over $13 million to the village and finance the creation of a wonderful park. And the village had to look at this because I thought it would be a tremendous asset to the village. The community spoke. The community said even though Mr. Paulson would decline to do the park in the event that the people did not want to close Pond Lane, that's what the public decided. But there is no proposal to close Pond Lane. Let me make that clear. Mr. Paulson's moved on. The CPF fund has acquired half that property and is in exchange for putting our algae skimmer in Dozier Park, and there is no plan to close Pond Lane. I do feel Pond Lane needs to be remediated. It's fallen apart. It's dangerous. It's curvy. The geese are on the road. The runoff from the road goes into the lake. So how can we fix it? Well, I'd like to get some design engineers to take a look at how can we configure the road given the space that we have and make it safer and better for the people to transit. I'd like to ride my bike on the weekends. I don't want to go down Pond Lane and get killed because it's so curvy and in bad repairs. So we will, if we can get through the hysteria of closed Pond Lane, which is, as I said, no longer an option, we will figure out the best way to remediate Pond Lane and make it safe for people, bicyclists, and cars. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brown, same question.
Yes, I think this is an example of showing how government works. Is government for the people, by the people. The people expressed their desire of what they wanted for Pond Lane. And now as trustees, we're here to make that request and for the best. Meaning, let's look at how we can repave this and make it safe. We understand that the curb on it, so it needs to be evaluated by engineers. It needs, I would suggest it be repaved and repaved in a fashion that is safe. Once again, this is an example of having discussions, hearing the people and moving on what the people are asking for.
Thank you. Mr. Coburn?
I'm glad to hear that Pond Lane is closed. I know it hasn't been on the agenda, but there was never a formal announcement that the proposal had been withdrawn or the board had stopped considering it. So this is a communication issue. I would have, just to remove the confusion that I think exists in the village, I think it'd be helpful maybe for the board to make that statement so that people aren't confused going forward. I think there's an ability to do what the other two candidates have said in terms of reviewing ways to change the road. I think most people believe the curviness to it, which is not sharp curves with one exception, is actually allows people to drive more slowly and is it's a proven traffic calming method. For starters, I would repave the road immediately. But the hysteria that was described on this issue, I think it was driven in part by a sense when this plan was first presented that it had been developed in significant detail behind the scenes. And the fact is that it had been. There's an email trail that the League of Women Voters or others could look into. There was discussions for perhaps 3 years before the first public presentation about significant details on this project featuring the closure of Pond Lane. And yet it never came to the Planning Commission and wasn't discussed until a fully baked plan was basically presented to the public. So even without the merits of it, I believe that that was part of the reason for the reaction that occurred.
Mr. Stevenson, you have a response?
There was never a fully baked plan. This was not a plan of the village. This was a private citizen, Mr. John Paulson, who owned the property, offering to present it. The Lake Agawam Conservancy also was involved in presenting this to the village as an option for what they wanted to do. This was not a plan the village invented, presented, or worked on. It was a plan that a private citizen offered to the village, and we began discussing it as a village government the same way we would discuss any plan to donate anything to the village to see if this is something we wanted done. I personally think the village lost a tremendous opportunity to create a landmark natural environment on that land. Now it's gone, but and that's very sad for the village. And I wish we'd been able to explain in greater detail before people became so outraged about closing Pond Lane what the advantages would have been. Perhaps we could have reached a compromise of not closing Pond Lane, but it became such a cause célèbre that eventually Mr. Paulson decided that if the village did not want his gift, then that was fine with him, and we've all moved on from that.
Thank you. Mr. Coburn, I think you already had one rebuttal.
No, I just spoke as everyone did. I don't think I've had a rebuttal on this issue.
You only get one rebuttal per debate, not
Oh,
on every
that wasn't
request.
clear. Okay.
I'm sorry. The next question, you would start with you, Mr. Coburn. This has to do with the solar awning in the historic district.
Yeah.
Residents have raised concerns about the appearance and aesthetics of the highly visible solar awning recently installed in the historic district, the Jobs Lane parking lot next to Agawam Park. How was this site selected? Why did the village exempt itself from its own zoning code? Do you support that decision? Since you weren't on the board, you can adapt that question however you wish.
Well, I am on the Environmental and Sustainability Committee. I co-chair that for the village, so I'm very aware of these issues generally. And I know this Johnson Controls plan has been discussed for 3 years, and that it was initiated or largely driven by former trustee Gina Resta, and I think she deserves an awful lot of credit for it. But the explanation that's given for this, which is that it's been around for 3 years and that Ms. Resta led the project, have been, I believe, intended to give people the idea that somehow it was their fault for not paying attention, or that it was her fault for having made this decision. She didn't. The current board didn't make this decision either. It was made by one person. It was made by the current mayor. He told me this personally, and it was these panels were originally supposed to be in the West Main Street parking lot. That was the contemplation. Even for that, no rendering was given. A sketchy site plan was shown, but it would have been, in my opinion, a better place for it. There were places where trees did not need to be removed in West Main Street. We would have had to move 5 to 8 very small trees, easily done. But when the mayor said that he didn't want to do that and asked where else could go, Johnson Controls said it can go in Job's Lane parking lot. That's the sum and total of it. There was never a rendering given. It could be, and it can be, 60 to 70 feet further to the east. And as to why it was exempted, it can be exempted under the Monroe Principles from Monroe County, New York. A government can exempt itself, and it's presumptively exempted from type 1 secret review because under amendment by Governor Hochul, things just like this are presumptively a type 2 action under secret. So this is an example of where residents were surprised. They were really never given an opportunity to know that this was going to happen or to see what it might look like, and we can do better.
So am I reading that you did not support the way this decision was arrived at?
That's correct. There ought to have been at some point a rendering shown and an explanation to the public that these were going there and why or whether there were or were not other locations available.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Brown, you're next, please. Do you have the question? You want me to repeat the question?
Thank you. You can repeat the question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Residents, this relates to the solar awning in the historic district. Residents have raised concerns about the appearance and aesthetics of the highly visible solar awning recently installed in the historic district in Job's Lane parking lot next to Agawam Park. How was this site selected? Why did the village exempt itself from its own zoning code? And do you support that decision?
I do support that it was provided to our residents. And what I will say is that I will take some ownership if people did not feel as though it was not presented in the best fashion to them. There's always room for improvement. So I would be glad to hear what our residents would suggest going forward, besides what we did as far as legally making everything viewable and presenting it to them and posting it. If there's anything more that they'd like, I'm willing to hear it and to take ownership that we can do things better. We can all do things better. That's what's important about Village. We have to be able to accept those terms and move forward. And moving forward, we can do things better.
Thank you. Trustee Stevenson?
Thank you. A few years ago, the Village of Southampton, a resolution initiated by the former Mayor Warren, engaged with the New York State Clean Air Act, which requires municipalities to achieve carbon and energy efficiency standards, which we were very far from at that point. So we have replaced many of the inefficient systems in Village Hall. We've installed solar panels on the police department roof. We've installed solar panels at the ambulance barn. We have done everything we can, and to this date, we're on the way to achieving energy and carbon neutrality. Now, being green, saving energy, preserving our environment, those are good goals. We hired an internationally recognized and reputable firm named Johnson Controls to help us do this. They suggested other sites for the solar panels because the ones on the roof of Village Hall, the police department, were not enough to generate the energy needed to meet New York State goals. So they had to put one more someplace else. The west parking lot is very visible. Everybody who comes to the Village goes into the west parking lot. The Job's Lane parking lot, I have a store at 69 Job's Lane across the street from the parking lot, and I cannot see the solar array. Is it the most beautiful thing in the world? No. Is it in the backyard of the Halsey house? No. It's in a parking lot facing the back of all the stores on Job's Lane. You can't see it from Job's Lane. You can barely see it from Agawam Park, and once we plant some additional trees, you won't see it at all. And yet it helps us achieve energy neutrality. And on a hot day in July, when it's 90 degrees out and your car is parked under that array, you're going to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question relates to the expansion of the historic district. Trustee Stevenson, you'll go first. Last fall, the village received a New York State grant to study the expansion of the historic district in the northwest and southern portions of the village. Some homeowners in those areas oppose the expansion because it would increase scrutiny and might put limits on what they can do to expand or renovate their homes. What is your opinion about the expansion of the historic district?
Well, this goes back to keeping the residents involved and informed. When the master plan, which had not been revised in 20 years, was revised a few years ago, it specifically states in that master plan that the village should investigate whether it would be worth examining whether the historic district should be expanded to preserve our historic architectural legacy. We went and got a grant to pay for that study. That study is being conducted now. When the study is completed in the fall, it will be up to the people to decide whether or not the assets that are uncovered by that study are worth expanding the historic district into. It's not a done deal. It's simply something that was stated in the master plan. When that master plan was done, we had public forums, we had meetings, we sent out an online request for opinion. We got 250 responses, but 250 responses out of 3,000 voters. So not everybody responded, and many people were surprised about the issue of expanding the historic district, and I get it. But once the information is in, and it's not in yet, all the people have a chance to weigh in. It's not going to be done without the approval of the people who live in the area, having the district expanded to cover their homes as well.
Thank you. The next question has to do with the PVA contract. The
Hi,
village, oh, I'm sorry, did I not?
that's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I feel like I'm
That's fine.
juggling three balls in the air.
You are. It's fine. I will say that we understand about sometimes people being not very clear, or they might be somewhat confused. And we want to be clear, and we have said it over again, and we'll gently say it again, that this was a survey. This was a grant that we received. And the survey is done so that there will be more information and data to be able to be presented to our residents. This is only, and I'm so glad you brought this up, this was only a survey. We received the grant, and it is so that we can take in more information and data to give to our residents. And then there will be the opportunity for our residents to review it and to see the direction that they'd like to go forward in. Thank you.
And do I get a chance to speak on this as well?
Of course, yes,
Thank
you're
you.
third.
So I am a champion of historic preservation, as I discussed in my opening. There's no one who's preserved more historic properties on the South Fork or East End of Long Island than I have in the last 25 years. So I love old buildings, and I like the idea of preserving them. The best way to preserve them is to ensure that they can remain relevant. Historic structures are not museums, and historic districts are not theme parks. They are homes and they are residences. But with respect to the proposal here, a couple comments. The Department of Interior and which puts standards for preservation in historic districts, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation, both of them agree on a lot of things, and in particular on the creation or expansion of an historic district. They say these are the first two steps, not hiring a consultant or doing a survey. That's not a first step. The first step, they say, is to develop a broad-based community task force to organize the thinking and investigations before hiring a consultant. And the second is to meet, the first job of that task force is to meet with the residents who would be affected by the expansion or the creation. So these are the resources that our village and our village land use boards routinely use as the gold standard for their decisions and their deliberations. We should be following them on this important journey as well. With respect to whether how this impacts residents, there's a lot of data that says that historic districts increase values, but the reason for that is because most historic districts are created in places that are falling apart. There's nowhere for values to go but up. The exceptions are in places with high land values and limited opportunities for development or redevelopment, in which case it puts values down. That's a definition of Southampton Village. I think we need to be honest with residents about the fact that there will be, because there already is in the village, a discount for properties that exist in the historic district. They may still want to be part of it for various reasons, but we need to make sure whatever discussion we have in the future is an honest one.
Thank you. The next question has to do with the PBA contract. Mr. Coburn, you'll go first on this. The village just entered into a new contract with the PBA. Do you think the village reached a good settlement? Some provisions included limiting newly hired officers' compensation to 75 days of vacation accrual, the use of body cameras, etc. If so, how specifically has the village benefited or not benefited?
I hate doing this. I just need to say, I want to say back on Historic District, the vote on this should be by the trustees and not by our the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation, in my opinion. With respect to the contract, I don't have access to the data that the trustees were able to look at in terms of personnel data that is confidential, as I mentioned before, and some of the comparative contracts for other unions. So it's a little hard for me to comment. I was a little concerned that this came up as basically a walk-on motion at a meeting, at the very end of one meeting, to review and approve that contract. So that's not, to me, best practices. Having said all of that, and I want to be clear about this because I don't want Roy and Robin to attack me too much. I do appreciate the job that the current trustees, all of them, all 4 trustees and the mayor have done in reestablishing relationships with first responders and emergency personnel in the village. It's very important. I don't know the details. That you say you don't want to see the sausage being made sometimes. I think the sausage was pretty ugly for a while here in the village. So the one thing I would say is coming to an agreement with appears unanimity of the board with an important union in the village, to me sounds like a good thing, but I really can't comment on the relative merits without access to information that only comes to trustees.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
I will say that the atmosphere is definitely improved between our officers and the trustees. I will say that the level of trust has grown. I will say that it's a mutual trust that we respect their work ethics and they respect that we are there to support them. Now, as far as the negotiation, it was a give and take. And our police officers are quite vocal and clear about what is working for them and what's not working for them. And I must say, this time things were quite agreeable, meaning that there was a middle ground that we came to. And they understood that some of the requests that even the chief of police did support, as far as vacation and time and when they would take their vacation, is because it was a concern of making sure that we had enough manpower in the summer to enforce that we need as far as safety and traffic. And our officers understood that, and we came to an agreement with it. That and other topics as well. So I would say that we are moving forward and there's a good relationship here, and there was a give and take and a mutual beneficial between us and led to a good contract. Thank you.
Mr. Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely pleased about the resolution of the PBA contract. I'm a strong advocate of our public safety officers. My own expertise is being as a liaison to the fire and ambulance departments. Of course, those are our volunteer organizations, and I'm particularly proud of the part I played in rebuilding our relationship with them. But as far as the police department, as Mr. Coburn has indicated, the relationship with the police department was extremely trying for many years, and we've done a great job of rebuilding that trust. The fact that Mayor Manger was able to negotiate a contract, and as Trustee Brown says, there's a give and take in any negotiation, but was able to get 3 very key takeaways, I think is tremendous. The first takeaway, again, as Trustee Brown alluded to, is that we are a summer community. We need people, our police officers, working in the summer. And one of the changes in the contract was a reduction of the number of vacation days and time off that our officers could take during the summer months. The second thing that Mr. Mayor Manger was able to achieve was to gain the right to evaluate each officer's performance. It sounds incredible in an organization that there wasn't that ability for the chief to say, this guy's doing a great job, or that lady's doing a wonderful job, or that officer needs to improve his performance. That was not available to our chief of police. and now it is. And finally, in this area of inflation and rising costs, Mayor Manger was able to negotiate an agreement that averages about 3% a year salary increase, which is very reasonable and helps the village balance its budget. So I think it was a very good contract for both sides, and I'm glad that we have it. Thank you.
Looking at the time, that had to be our last question. We're going to move to 1-minute closing statements in reversed order. So Trustee Stevenson, would you give us your 1-minute closing statement?
Thank you. I believe most people in the village agree on what they want from government. Keep them safe, to preserve and enhance the qualities that make Southampton so special, to spend their tax dollars wisely. Before every board meeting, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. That word republic is very important because in a republic, the people elect one of their own to represent them. They choose that individual based on knowing them, their contributions to the community, and the views they have expressed. Then they trust that person to make decisions on their behalf. I weigh our residents' input, along with my nearly 70 years of living in and loving Southampton, to make the decision that I believe is in the best long-term interest of the village. Southampton is in a better place than it was 2 years ago. We've done a lot. There is, of course, more to do. I would be honored if you would continue to trust me to represent you by voting for me on June 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coburn?
Mr. Stevenson said Friday that the trustees are elected to make decisions and voters choose every 2 years whether they like those decisions. Roy is right. So if you are upset by the handling of Pond Lane or disappointed by lack of progress on a sewer, wish there'd been more consideration before installing solar canopies in the heart of the historic district, or feel duped by broken promises to eliminate lifetime benefits for trustees, then you should also agree with Roy, who said, if you don't like that after a couple of years, you get rid of me. I think in fairness, Roy was using the first person to make a generic point. Don't vote for an incumbent who's fallen short of their promises and your expectations. So what qualifies me to step in? I've made shifts in my career before and excelled when I did so I have confidence I can do so here, particularly with the work that I've already done with and for the village over nearly a decade. But you don't have to take my word for it. Former mayors Hattrick, Epley, and Irving, who know the job requirements and know me, have all endorsed me, as have 10 recognized business owners and leaders in the village. I promise openness, communication, resident input, imagination, and integrity in my work as your trustee.
Thank you. And finally, Trustee Brown?
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I believe in the village, its people, its potential, and the unique character that makes Southampton so special. And I believe we can preserve the village the way we hold it so dear, because we have a proven track record of tangible, positive results. As your trustee, I've served as liaison to Southampton Arts Center, Southampton History Museum, Cooper's Beach, and public safety. My top priorities are keeping our community safe, improving traffic flow, restoring Cooper's Beach to #1, and protecting our natural environment for generations to come. I've always tried to lead with accessibility, transparency, and integrity. I don't shy away from tough conversations. I do the research. I listen to all sides and keep fiduciary responsibility first in mind. And we've made real progress. This is not the time to turn back. With your vote, I'll continue doing the work with thoughtfulness, accountability, and a clear vision for the future. Allow me to serve the village we all love. Please elect Robin Brown for trustee, and I thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the league, I'd like to thank all the candidates for participating in tonight's debate.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to thank all those who took time to submit questions. And a very special thank you to the staff at Southampton LTV, whose technical support has made it possible to hold this virtual debate. It's being recorded and will be available on Southampton CTV's YouTube channel beginning tomorrow until the day of election on the 20th of June. Finally, our thanks to the voters of Southampton Village for watching and taking an interest in their village government. Please remember that voting will take place on Friday, June 20th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Southampton Cultural Center, Levitas Center, 25 Pond Lane. The debate for the second part of this program, featuring the two candidates running for mayor of the village, will be promptly at 7 o'clock and 6 minutes. Please join us by exiting this debate and signing again on to CTV's YouTube channel. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.